Hello and welcome to How Would You Rate Your Pain? We will be exploring life, loss, love, and the power of resilience. I am Dr. Tiffany Bartell. Thank you for listening, and I can't wait to go on this journey with you. Hello and welcome to another episode of How Would You Rate Your Pain? I'm Dr. Tiffany Bartell here with another episode, and I am here with one of my very dearest friends, Natasha Montgomery. Welcome, Natasha.
Hello, I am happy to be here. I miss you, buddy.
I miss you, Buddy. And we'll talk in a little bit about our origin story and where Buddy came out. But it's been, how many years have we known each other?
I think based on doing the math, we realized that it has been
Was it 2014? Did we meet in 2014?
no, it
No?
was it 2014? It may yes, it was
I
2014.
think it was like the summer of 2014.
Yes, that is right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So our friendship is like ready for middle school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Great. I'd love for you to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and the work that you do.
Yes, my name is Natasha Montgomery. I am a licensed professional counselor supervisor. I am also, I always run my licenses, right? So I am a chemical dependency counselor as well as a certified life coach. I met Tiffany when we were in grad school, and I always say this is my second career, my second lifetime because initially coming out of college, I worked in corporate America. I was doing basically HR for doctors, nurses, healthcare staffing. And I was like, I actually want to do what I want to do. So I started over and went to grad school, got my master's in counseling, and I currently own my own private practice, M.B.S Whole Health. M.B.S stands for mind, body, spirit. I take a very holistic approach to counseling and working on meeting the client where they are in the whole person, not just mental health, but how are they doing spiritually? How are they doing physically? And my mission is really working with women of color, dealing with trauma and life changes and just becoming the best version of themselves.
I love that. And you and I have something in common in that we both have podcasts.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yes, I have a podcast called This Therapist Has Problems. I am the therapist and I have problems. But I created that podcast back in I know. I was gonna lie. I don't wanna lie. I had the idea about the podcast back in
Yeah.
2020, and I had been sitting on this idea for years until I finally got tired of talking about it, and I was like, "Either do the podcast or stop talking about it." So I
And you did
officially
it.
yes, I did. I officially launched the podcast the beginning of this year, and my whole purpose of that podcast is to kind of lift the veil of mental health professionals and their own experiences dealing with mental health and understanding even when someone is sitting in the seat of being an expert, we are human and understanding that even we as professionals navigate through life struggles. So making talking about mental health very relatable and
Mhm.
understanding me personally, how I've dealt with issues with my mental health and ways that I help others do the same. So this
I
therapist
think
has problems.
well, and this therapist has a therapist. So, I think that that's such a wonderful thing because, I think part of the work that we do in our field is, serving individuals, couples, families, but also advocacy. And we can talk a lot, I think, as therapists about advocacy and decreasing stigma and everything. But then when you kind of like get into it and you're actually authentic and vulnerable yourself, I think that's the most powerful form of advocacy. So before we get into the work that you do, I have to tell the listeners and people watching a bit of our origin story. So I have this habit. I don't think it's a bad habit. I think it's a great habit of I fall in like with friends pretty like instantly. Also, the producer of this podcast, Liam, was one of those. I went to somewhere he's talking, and I was definitely listening and soaking in the information, but I was also like, I'm gonna make him be my friend. And so way back in 2014, we were both flying to Greece for some field work we were doing as part of our programs, and we were both flying through DFW. I think it was yeah, it was DFW.
Mhm.
And so I was like, oh, I'll fly with this person and we'll get to chat or whatever. And as soon as I met you at the gate, I was like, I'm gonna make her my friend. And at the time of our yeah, at the end of our time in Greece, I think I don't remember how the nickname buddy came, but I think I told you, I was like, "Hey, you're gonna be my buddy for this trip." And you were like, "All right." And then every time I see you, I would be like, "Hey, buddy, hey, what are we doing for lunch?" And, almost I guess it'd be like 11 years ago now, we're still going strong and taking trips together and you're still my dear friend and buddy. And so that's where the buddy comes from. So if you see us out in the wild or even in professional settings, if I see her, I'm gonna be like, "Hey, buddy, how are you?" So I would love to hear, so you talked a little about the podcast. I'd love to hear like what made you want to specialize in like the area of mental health that you do because you come to the class that I teach on multicultural counseling and theory and we talk about lived experiences and black mental health and all of that and it's an area that you're definitely an expert in both through your lived experience and then this is what you built your career serving which is I mean, I wish I had, a dollar for every time I have a client here locally who's like, I would love to find a therapist who looks like me, but I can't." And so I think, being able to specialize in that, serving a population that's looking for a provider that understands their lived experience is so powerful.
I think for me, it was very personal because in my own personal experience growing up, I grew up in a very Christian household. And also being African American, there wasn't any conversation that I recall ever having about mental health.
Okay.
So understanding even as a child struggling with my own mental health and not really understanding what that meant or what I was actually dealing with, I can see firsthand that gap
Mm,
education in our community. I know obviously since was a child, it has gotten a lot better, but
sure.
there's still a long way to go, right? In
Mhm.
understanding that people who look like me want to speak to people who look like them, who
Yeah.
understand their story, understand their background, and they're not feeling like they have to explain certain things that is just unsaid. I mean, I have clients
Mhm.
who'll come in and say certain things, and I'm like, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think that
Yeah.
creates just such a safe space where we
Mhm.
can dig into the deep work a lot faster because we understand that unspoken nuance. And that's something that I really appreciate. I built my whole platform on normalizing the conversation surrounding mental health. That is my whole thing. We have to talk about it. We have to feel safe. We have to know that normal people, we all deal with struggles with our mental health. So my goal is to make mental health relatable, not make it
Yeah.
taboo. And I am a big like your physical health and your mental health are not two separate things. You are a
Mhm.
whole person dealing with things. So I try again going back to that integrated approach. My goal is to make mental health approachable.
Yeah, I think that's so wonderful because it's an accessibility factor, right? You can
Mhm.
have, tons of services in the town that you live in, but if that culture piece isn't also going to be held. Because I think about like as a white woman, I have this realization of how, Black mental health hasn't always been welcomed. And even now, we don't always create spaces for the full range of feelings. We think about like this idea of like, anger and which is a human emotion, which is very healthy and very appropriate. But for so many people, they aren't able to show anger because then it's seen as unsafe or it's seen as difficult and you're labeled like an angry black woman or,
Or
all of these things.
dangerous.
And so I think, there is kind of a privilege that a lot of us hold that we don't even realize that really affects and creates barriers for seeking services.
Yeah, I think that is such a powerful conversation I think is necessary to have. And from my perspective, I see it twofold.
Okay.
Either anger is the reachable emotion
Mm,
that people
okay.
feel more comfortable with
More
because
powerful.
it's
Hmm.
safer than
Yeah.
saying, I'm actually hurting. I'm actually
Mm,
sad. I'm actually feeling neglected or abandoned or disappointed. So for
hmm.
some people in our culture, anger is very easy to reach. But
Gotcha.
externally, like you said,
Mm,
it can be seen in a very negative way. Like I said,
mhm.
anger can be seen as dangerous. when it
Yeah.
is very human and natural emotion, I think, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
educate to say, we can't control what emotions come up, but we can control what we do with that emotion.
Mhm.
Right. So, in
Yeah.
educating people that it's okay and it is normal to feel anger, but dig deeper. What's underneath that anger and what are you
Mhm.
doing to express your anger? So I think there's very many layers to understanding our culture and
Yeah.
understanding not only are we dealing with ourselves as human beings and our own experiences. In a lot of
Mhm.
spaces, and this has been my experience both in my corporate life and even in my life as a professional, where I am the representation for my race,
Oof.
the people. I am the only Black person in the room. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
carries a lot of weight with it as far
Mhm.
as when clients are coming into the room and they don't know how to feel or experience their emotions in a way that feels safe for them.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing and breaking that down that way because, that makes it even more complex that like every emotion can have its complicated layers and parts and not everybody, I mean, the world is full of suffering and I serve a diverse population, but I think what we're talking about today is specifically this experience. And I've had a lot of clients that they are like the token black person on the committee or the black person that has to be in the photo shoot because they want their corporate brochure to have a person of color in it. And it can feel like very exploitive, I think, at times. And so how do you walk your clients through that kind of pain and that I think it creates a lot of dissonance between like I should show up and people should be able to see someone that looks like them, but also I'm feeding into this system that is not healthy.
Yeah. I am a big proponent of serving what serves you.
I
So
love that. Yeah.
understanding that there are certain dynamics where, and I will even use our friendship as a perfect example, where there is 100% safety in our friendship. I don't question, okay, am I your token Black friend?
Oh my gosh.
We built
Yeah.
that
You're my
rapport and
buddy.
that relationship with each other where I know,
Mhm.
okay, this is an authentic space for me where I truly feel safe. So I
Mhm.
think in other dynamics, because like I said, I've been the only Black woman in a lot of rooms, especially as I climbed up the corporate ladder and understanding you don't appreciate my presence and what I bring to the
Mm.
table. You just want this as okay, yeah, we have a diverse leadership team. And it's like, no, I won't allow myself to be used in that way. So I
Yeah.
think for other people, especially with my clients, is saying, is this a space where you feel safe? And
Yeah.
if not,
Yeah.
what is it that you need in order to develop some safety? Because realistically, right? Not everyone's reality is, "Oh, I'm the token Black person, I can quit my
Sure.
job tomorrow." That's not
Yeah.
a reality, but it's
Yeah.
saying, how do you create safety within yourself, and what
Mhm.
boundaries are necessary so that you can't necessarily be paraded around as the token? How do you
Mhm.
assess those situations and understand what appropriate boundaries are necessary to be put in place so that you can continue to feel safe in your environment without feeling used?
Yeah, so it sounds like a lot of the work that you're doing in so many of these situations is helping people realize the power that they do have and how to be able to use it for themselves. And, that idea of safety, I think one thing I've noticed with a lot of my clients of different cultural backgrounds, but especially marginalized populations, is that I don't know, that idea of safety sometimes doesn't even feel accessible,
Mm, mhm.
and there maybe not even be a realization of the depth of the lack of safety they're feeling in their worlds. And I
Yeah.
think that's so hard.
Mhm, and it can be scary to truly understand the scope of that. To
Mhm.
say that a lot of people don't recognize just how unsafe they truly feel until we
Yeah.
start to break down some of those things. And when it comes to these different pockets of spaces that people have to exist in, especially
Mhm.
when it comes to their work environment, my goal is to
Yeah.
help people understand your work is not your life.
Mm.
Your work
Yes.
facilitates you being able to live the life that you want to live by providing for you financially, but
Mhm.
your home, your community, your family, your friends, that is your real life. So sometimes we do have to differentiate to say, okay, I'm
Mhm.
going to work and I have to do what I need to do to take care of myself and my family, but this is not the entirety of my world. So not
Yeah.
allowing just that experience
Wow.
to paint the full picture of what your life
Mhm.
looks like.
I really love that you're bringing out that diversified approach because I think so many times as humans, we really just want to like have one tool and just like bring that hammer or that screwdriver to every job and it doesn't really work that way for a lot of our lives.
Yeah. And I think that brings into context the weights that we carry with code switching to feel like we
Mm,
have to be different people in different environments. And I just
yeah.
think in going to therapy and learning more about who you truly are as a person, you
Yeah.
recognize, yeah, I have to be professional Natasha in certain settings, but then I can
Sure.
be buddy Natasha in other settings. And
You
that
sure
doesn't
can.
always look the same, but that doesn't
Yeah.
mean that I'm not being genuine to who
Authentic.
I am, right?
Hmm.
So it's under when you
Yeah.
have a better understanding of who you are, you recognize that you can carry yourself into different spaces. And yes, you have to behave different ways, but that doesn't mean that you're betraying who you are as
Mm.
a person.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit more about code switching for listeners who might not be familiar with that term.
So code switching is basically where, and I'll say this because this is how we were taught. It's like, okay, in certain environments, you have to act white. It's like
Yeah.
you have to carry yourself in a way that's palatable so that people are not threatened by your presence, so that
Mm.
people don't look at you in a stereotypical way. So when
Mhm.
you go to work, it's like, no, you don't bring your real self to work.
Yeah.
Code switch is saying, hey, you got to follow the code of where you are. If you're in a
Mm.
professional environment, they're expecting you to act this way. If you're in this type of setting, they're expecting you to act this way. And that can become very, very heavy if
And
you truly don't
exhausting.
understand who you are
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
value who you are. And it's
Mm.
saying, I am Black Natasha wherever I go, right?
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
hide that. I can't cover it up. And I understand the value of that. And I
Mm.
don't try and pretend to be someone that I'm not in spaces just depending on who's there.
If you're listening to How Would You Rate Your Pain, you're probably a person who understands the power of talking through the issues that we're going through. I'm really excited to let you know about BetterHelp, an online therapy platform. I'm not one of their therapists, but very thankful they sponsor this show. Wherever you are, BetterHelp will match you with a licensed therapist who can listen and help you through whatever you're going through. It's flexible and entirely online. Listeners of the show can get started with 10% off the first month by clicking the link in the show notes or by going to betterhelp.com/Tiffany Bartell. I love that. And I think one thing that we've both the benefit of a long-term relationship like we have had is watching each other's evolution.
Yes.
And I've loved watching you just be in yourself and in your skin. And I think every year that I know you, you seem more concentrated, Natasha, and more yourself.
Mhm.
And I love every part of it. I think it's wonderful. I think one thing that we hear a lot of, the buzzwords that pop around, one of them is like being an ally, an
Mm,
allyship. And I think I feel uncomfortable sometimes because I think it's often used by people that are not a part of a particular marginalized group saying I am or pronouncing themselves, you know,
mm, mhm.
an ally. And so I think I try to really strive to be an aspiring ally because I think that it's the people that you want to be an ally to that get to choose
Mm.
and say if you are or not. But what are some of the things that people who are aspiring allies can do in spaces where something happens in front of them, or they're part of a committee, or they're making decisions and wanting to be inclusive, but kind of fumbling around a little bit?
I think the way you phrased that was very perfect in understanding that you can't knight yourself and then stand on a mountain yelling.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really seeking to understand first, to say,
Hmm.
in order to fight for something, you have to truly understand what you're fighting for.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you're not doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
So I think in that, and I'll use our friendship as an example, we have taken time to understand and get to know each other. We've
Yeah.
had real conversations. We've gone through real life together. So when
Yeah.
you say, "Hey, I want to support you," and now you ask me all that time, what ways can I support you? And you're not telling me, "Hey, I'm going to do this and this is going to help and this is going to make you feel better." It's
Mm,
asking those who you're trying to support, "What can I do to support you? How
yeah.
can I use my privilege? How can I use my voice to be an advocate and stand by you?" And that
Mm.
doesn't mean often going in and you're taking the stage. It can be,
Flipping tables. Yeah.
"Hey, you might," they raised their hand, you missed over them in a meeting. It's not
Mm,
always you utilizing your voice, it's saying, "How do you elevate that other
amplify.
person and
Mhm.
help them advocate for themselves?"
I'm so grateful. That's such wise advice because I think there's so many people that and you know, I teach the multicultural class and it's
Mhm.
a master's program and you've met so many of my really wonderful students and been part of their learning experience, which I'm so grateful for because that energy is expensive and valuable and I'm always happy for people to say no to those invitations too. But you know, I think that when we get into those spaces, especially learning spaces, there's such a fear of making a mistake. And so I just started a new cohort last night, and we had this conversation about, you know, if you're afraid to make a mistake in this class and to ask a question that you really want to know about, but you don't know how to say it, if you don't conquer that fear in this class, you're going to take that fear into the clinical setting and you will never broach culture. So then you will not help people the way that you need to.
I think that's such a good learning experience, and I think I am always, especially in our field, you have to stay curious. You have to stay
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
learning, and even though
Hmm.
we get all the degrees, we have all the letters, we are
Hmm.
forever a student, and we're always learning and always growing, and I think in whatever role that you play in someone's life, whether you're their therapist, whether you're their friend, you should
Hmm.
always be curious about that person because when you ask questions, that helps
Hmm.
you understand what does that person need and how you can show
Yeah.
up for them.
I really love that you bring out the curiosity part because I think like curiosity that's to know and to understand a person, if that's our motivation and that's our channel, it really filters out a lot of the questions that are actually microaggressions
Mhm.
that people who are, you know, from a dominant culture like step into. You know, so am I asking because I'm really wanting to get to know this person deeply, or am I asking because I'm curious and I'm kind of scratching an itch and I'm using them as Wikipedia. So I'm like,
Mhm,
AI, ChatGPT, what
mhm.
about this blah 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 blah, you know? And so I feel like that takes so much of the yeah, so much of the exploitation out of it if what we're really curious about is like who they are
Yeah,
and to know them deeply.
yeah, and that brings up something I always say, I'm sure my clients get sick of me saying this. When they
Say
say,
it again.
I'm like, "What are your intentions behind that?"
Mm,
When you check your intentions behind doing a thing, then you
yeah.
can really gauge, okay, if I'm being curious, am I being curious for the right reasons? Am I
Hmm.
being
Yeah.
curious to confirm a stereotype to say, oh, I know all Black people were like that. She just confirmed it.
Yeah.
She said it. Or are you truly trying to get to know that person as an individual? So I
Mhm.
think it's saying, yes, be curious, but understand your intentions behind your curiosity.
That's really beautiful because it gives us that mindfulness check-in on
Mhm.
ourselves before we start going out of our mouths. Yeah, I really like that. And I think you talked before about like continuing to learn and grow. And I think we can continue to go deeper and learn our friends and our colleagues and our clients and everything. But I think also it's required to continue to learn about the people groups. Like if we think about marginalized populations, just in the last 10 years, there's been a lot of language changed.
Mhm.
And I'm a big firm believer that like tell me how you want me to refer to you. Tell me, you know, what feels good to you. And if that changes in 3 years, I want to be like first in the line to know that so I can like get it right for you so that it feels good
Mhm.
to be in relationship with me professionally or personally. And so I think, you know, I don't know, for me, it kind of, is a relief that there's no way you could possibly know everything about any culture, including your own, and every person in that.
Mhm.
So, like, if it's impossible to know that, then the goal is not perfection. The goal would be like cultural humility and that like clinical and ethical curiosity. And I just think that gives us permission to live in the world with like
Yeah.
really open hands, getting really excited to learn about people that are different than us.
Yeah, and I think that's something that shows up in the therapy room for me a lot,
Yeah.
especially as things are changing, and especially as I see my clients change and develop over time. They're
Yeah.
like, "Hey, have you ever heard of this thing?" I'm like, "No, tell me all about it."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like the thing is keeping it open mind. I say this all the time. My clients are like, "I can come in here and tell you anything, and you just roll with it." And I'm like, "All right, where are we going today?" Like,
I believe that.
and keeping an open mind, I think it helps in so much in facilitating
Mhm.
advocacy. To say if
Mhm.
you're fighting for something, understanding even that something that you are fighting for can pivot and change. Because if you
Mm.
learn something on this level, that doesn't mean stop being curious. That doesn't mean stop learning. It's a
Yeah.
consistent learning and growing process.
And I think, I kind of love it if a client corrects me.
Mm,
And is like, "No, no, that's not what I'm thinking." And I'm like, "Oh, we're so safe in here. We're so safe where you're able to like be so transparent and honest with me." And I would hope that like I would be that in my personal relationships too, of just like, "Oh, the way I thought I was supporting you didn't feel good. Like, tell me, let me apologize, and then like, help me understand what feels better, what is better." And
you
so
are
I guess
so very good at that. You do a great job.
you make it so easy. You make it so easy. But I think, there's so much fear in the world of being called racist or being called sexist or being labeled as something you don't want to be. And there's so much defensiveness. Um, when instead we could really be humble and say, like, oh gosh, like I didn't know that
Mhm.
that was that. Because I didn't know doesn't mean I'm off the hook. So I'll just apologize and
Mhm.
I'll repair and
Mhm.
I will educate myself, my work,
Mhm.
and then do better. And if trust can be repaired in this relationship, great. And if not, I'm just going to own it and I'm going to live a little bit more wisely in the world. And I think if we could just like move away from this fear of making a mistake,
Yeah.
I think we could really have a lot of space between us to connect.
Yeah, I think that's such a valid point because we're not gonna know all the things. And I
No.
feel like even with us, things that we were able to say in the '90s is like, "Oh, no." And I
Oh,
think a lot
TV
of
shows have
people
not aged well. Commercials
not
have
at
not
all.
aged well.
Not at all, and I
Yeah.
think people can get stuck on that high horse like, "Oh, this generation is just so sensitive, and we used to be able to say this, and we used to be able to do that." But I think if you lead with compassion, you
Mhm,
understand, okay, things have changed, and that means you have to change with it, and that does come with
mhm.
admitting you made a mistake. Even if you
Yeah,
don't fully understand the mistake,
yeah.
admitting you made a mistake, course correct, and educate yourself on the back end.
Yeah, so I think, part of maybe our work in the world is to help people to live gently with people that are different than them and to create safety in the spaces where they exist. But then I hope also maybe like it's a little bit of advocacy and invitation to come into the space of like humility and self-compassion. Social justice without mindfulness doesn't work. It just makes us like beating each other over the
Mm,
head with things. But when we come together with common humanity, I mean, I was telling my husband, I think I change something significant that I think or believe every like 9 to 12 months.
mm,
I get new information and then I iterate, right? And
mhm,
so like I'm not like exceptional, like that's got to be what everybody's doing, right? And so I think that helps me sometimes, especially in the world today where there's so much really difficult things being done and said
mhm,
that I try to tell myself like this is snapshot in time. It's a moment in time and I'm either part of changing that to be something better, or I'm part of it getting worse by doing nothing. But there's tons of people in the world that I don't have to hold hate for because this is just today's self,
mhm,
right? What
mhm.
if they have that moment where it makes sense and then they become an advocate? 'Cause that happens all the time. And I think that kind of helps me to hold hope in today's world.
Yeah, that eventually people can learn, grow, change, develop. Yeah.
We make a living off of it.
Yeah, that's the whole foundation of the work that we do. And
So
knowing that it's possible
yeah.
that no one is so far gone that they
Mhm.
can't one day say, "You know what? I wanna change. I wanna grow. I wanna learn. I wanna be a different person." And I think in
Yeah.
all aspects of life, that is possible.
Yeah, I mean, we see it happen all the time. I think my oldest client that I ever had was, like, 86.
That's
And
beautiful.
yeah, they were coming in because they had a really, like, stormy relationship with their sibling who was older than them,
Hey,
and they were tired of fighting. It only took almost, like, 100 years.
they have some good genes.
Yeah, it was hilarious. This client also, like, had the most foul mouth I'd ever had as a client, which I thought was hilarious.
Mhm.
Very expressive. I always knew exactly how they felt. But yeah, they came in because they were just like, dang, I've been fighting with the same person for this amount of time. I don't know how much time we have left. So, like, you know, how do I change this?
I
And
love that.
yeah, yeah, there's therapy happening with 2-year-olds and 1-year-olds and people pushing 90. And so, maybe there's hope for all of us too that we can change in whatever space we're in.
I love that's really beautiful. I think that is definitely a sign that it is never too late. Because I
Hmm.
think some people
Yeah.
say, "Oh, you're old and you're stuck in your ways," and it's like, no, everyone has the
Mhm.
ability, but you first have to recognize that you desire to do so.
Yeah. For me personally, I think love is always the motivation.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
I, there's nothing, and I'm going to get a little emotional about it. There's nothing that I think or believe that's more important than being able to show love to the people that I care about or the ones that I come in contact with. And I think that kind of helps me with those moments of like those like cringe moments where you're like, ah, I have this memory of how I didn't handle this in this situation. It's like, okay, did I make amends? Did I repair? Am I learning and trying to do better? Yes. And am I always striving to be a safe and good person to the people around me, even to strangers? Am I trying to do that? And so I think love makes it like I think love is like the opposite of fear, right? And so if I'm not afraid to make a mistake, but I want to love really, really well, ah, gosh, that's such a great motivation to keep digging in.
Oh, you're making me get emotional. No, but I think
This is what we do, everybody.
you highlight. No, but I think you're absolutely right. I think that would change a lot of what we see and what we experience if we truly, truly learned how to love one another. I think
Mhm.
with love, it's saying you can love someone that you don't even know and
Or
recognize
like.
the humanity in them and say, you know what? I may not know you. I may not have walked in your shoes or understand your life or your experiences firsthand, but I love the humanity enough in you to
Mhm.
respect you and to
Yeah.
be a safe space for you. And I think that would make a world of difference.
Me too. Me too. So, if there's someone listening or watching today, and maybe it's a member of the Black community, maybe it's even a Black female who's like, oh, they're talking about therapy. I know I should try, but it seems so difficult to trust somebody, and what if I get hurt or it doesn't feel good? What would you say to them?
I would say give it a try. It's like, try it. I think with that, again, the only thing that is holding you back, if it's fear, the only way to get through that is through that.
Hmm.
Say, you have to try and knowing that not everyone is going to be a good fit for you,
Right.
which
It's
means
like
that
it's
you
like buying shoes. Yeah.
exactly. You are in control of this process. So you get to go in and the thing
Hang
that
on one
I love
second.
yeah,
Stop. Go back to you get to be in control of this process. I don't know why I am having all these phone problems. Sorry, Carson. He's gonna edit all this.
I feel
Oh
like
my
I'm
goodness, I'm a
very
mess today. Okay, so you get
yeah.
to be in control.
You get to be in control of this process. So, with that being said, the thing that I love about what mental health looks like now is almost every therapist has some form of platform at this point, which means
Yeah.
they have a website, they have a profile, they may have an Instagram, they may have a YouTube, they may even have a podcast. where you can get a feel for that therapist and their personality, the type of work that they do, to say, okay, hey, do some homework and vet this person on the front end to
Yeah.
say, okay, does it seem likely that I would be able to gel well with this person? And again,
Yeah.
just because you are connected with a therapist, you guys are not married and you don't have to go through a full divorce. If it does not work
Right.
out, you can
Yeah.
find someone
You owe
else.
them nothing, literally nothing.
Absolutely. No.
Apology,
And
nothing.
as a therapist, I understand that. And my goal is to say, okay, you need to get the best support for you possible.
Mhm.
So if I am not that fit, I will find some referrals for you. I will help you find
Yeah.
someone that's a better fit.
Yeah, same.
So
Absolutely.
thinking it's important for you to at least give yourself the opportunity. One thing that I find is that people are not great at listening. So
Yeah.
in order for you to give yourself the gift of a space where it is all about you, you're
Mm,
competing, you're not
yes.
in trauma competition
Mhm.
with
It's
someone
not
else.
mutual. Yeah.
It's saying you are giving yourself a gift of a space to truly be selfish. And
Mm,
this is my space to focus on me. This is my space to talk about the things that I need to get off my chest, to heal from the things that I've been carrying. And to have a space, honestly, it's a hard thing, I'm sure, and I know for other people, but I feel like it's a beautiful thing when I hear my clients say, I have never said these words out loud. I have
mm,
never told
yeah.
anyone this. And the weight
Yeah.
that comes off people's shoulder when they
Mhm.
have the space to do that. So if you are considering getting counseling, if you are thinking
Yeah.
about it, just give it a try.
Yeah.
And knowing that what's the worst that could happen, you're like, I don't like that person. You meet
Yeah.
somebody else.
There's lots of fish in the sea,
Yeah.
and, I love that. Yeah, just trying and then giving yourself flexibility to kind of interview them and see
Mhm.
if they feel good. And a good therapist, like you were saying, won't be upset if you leave or they want something different, they'll help you.
Yeah.
I have a client who is a person of color who recently I've been seeing them for years now, and I've asked them over and over again, like, hey, so like you're exploring this, part of your culture. Do you want help finding somebody from that culture to like deep dive in that? And they would understand that because I'm happy to support you, but I'm also happy to help you resource. No, 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 year after year after year. And then this year they were like, I want you to help me find, I want to transfer to a client from my or a counselor from my culture. And I was like, this is amazing. This is the best news ever. I love this so much. And so your provider should be for you and really like your biggest cheerleader for whatever you need, whatever that looks like as time goes on. So yeah, and two, if you get in there and it doesn't feel good, you can always give them feedback too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, say it's a good fit, but
Question.
you don't like something one day, just be like, I don't like that. That doesn't feel good. That's
Yes.
not helpful.
I love that. And one thing during my intakes, I ask all my clients if they've ever been to therapy before. I'm
Same,
like,
same.
tell me what you enjoyed about your previous therapist and what do you feel didn't go well? Because I
Hmm.
want to be able to hear your feedback to say, hey, they don't
Yeah.
like this and they love that.
I'm not here to learn the hard way. I'm here to shortcut all that stuff. And I am very obedient. I will follow it
Mhm.
down. You know what? Not to get off topic, but like the number one thing, it's so weird. The number one thing that I hear from clients they didn't like about their last counselor was that the counselor talked about their own lives too much.
Hear that. And I'm like, what's happening here?
Nope, absolutely
The way
not.
you put that out there on the platform, that is
Yeah.
not a
Red
normal
flag.
thing
Yeah.
that should be happening in your therapy sessions. If you feel like you know your therapist's whole life story, that's not what that's supposed to look like. This
No, not everything that happens in your life should remind them of something in their life. That's what your friends and family do to you, and it's not cool then either.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think that may be an idea for a podcast episode. What is appropriate self-disclosure for therapists? Because I think
Yeah.
that, especially for clients who've never done it before, they don't know what that's supposed to
Mhm.
look like. But truly, when you're in therapy, it is your time and your
Mhm.
space to focus on you.
Well, and it's your counselor's job to protect that space for you. Because I've had clients before, and you probably have too, where they're not used to taking up space. and
Mm,
they're not used to being like given to. And so they'll try to make it mutual, like, how old are your kids and how, this. And it's like, I'm noticing that, right now you really want to turn the conversation to me and I'm really curious what's happening for you. Like that's what we do. That's our
mhm,
job. And ethically, like there's places for self-disclosure where
mhm.
it's, indicated for clinical treatment, but yeah, it's so weird. That's the number one concern that people have is I don't want to have to think about my counselor's life
Yeah,
or their dead dog or whatever. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So we
why
don't
a
do it.
therapist should have a therapist.
That's right. It's the domino. You obviously need someone to talk to. And I would say like I just want to empower listeners like you can call your counselor out. That
Absolutely.
is you have the power to do that. You do not owe them like authority or, hopefully we're all respectful and kind to each other, but like you can say like I feel like sometimes we're talking a lot about your life and I'm wondering if this space, can be like designated for my life and see how they take the feedback. And if
Yeah,
they don't take it well,
yeah, they're not the therapist for you.
or even if they take it well but you don't feel as comfortable anymore, like and we outgrow therapists, we outgrow doctors, we outgrow like sometimes we even outgrow friendships. Not you, you're stuck with me. But
Forever.
but anyways, okay, so any last thoughts for people that are listening and are maybe even thinking about getting into the mental health field and any tips on how to be healthy and to take care of themselves alongside taking care of other people?
Yes, you know what's interesting is that I have several clients of mine who have then decided to go and get their master's and
So
become
do
counselors.
I. And we get no perks for that, guys.
I love that. I get no referral bonus or anything.
I don't get a free coffee.
No, no, but I think that it's important to mirror the lessons that you're learning, especially if you're in therapy or if you are in the helping profession. If you and that has been my mirror, I tell you,
Mhm. Yeah.
is if I am helping people to become the best versions of themselves, if I'm telling my clients you need to prioritize taking care of yourself, and you need to know balance and you need to have boundaries, it comes through me first before it comes out of my mouth, which means
Yeah.
I have to follow the guidance that I am giving.
Mm. Mhm.
And that they say doctors are the worst patients. Sometimes therapists are the worst at prioritizing and taking care of themselves. But I think that, especially pandemic forward,
Yeah.
we were quite literally living the same trauma as
Oh,
our
parallel
clients
process. Yeah.
while they were going through it.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
the only way that we were able to survive through that was by prioritizing taking care of ourselves. We
Mhm.
have to be our first patients and
Mm.
make sure that we're prioritizing ourselves. And there's no way that you can show up in a healthy way for your clients or whoever you're helping without doing.
I love that. Thank you so much for being on here with me, buddy. I
I
love
mean,
you.
I love you too. It's so good to see you. I'm so proud of you.
I'm so proud of you too. And thank you to all of those who are watching and listening. Be gentle with yourselves, and we'll see you next time. How Would You Rate Your Pain is a pop media production and is recorded at Wavelength Studios in downtown Chattanooga, Tennessee. Our set is designed by Mad Honey Rentals, graphic design provided by Josh Wilhelm at JW Creates, music is by Michael Crosa. This podcast is not intended to be taken as medical advice and should not take the place of regular therapy. If you have questions about your mental health, see a licensed clinical therapist. I'm Dr. Tiffany Bartell. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at How Would You Rate Your Pain? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next week for another episode.